Lynette Oxley for Tack Shack Tactical TV and Ghosts of Girls on Fire. 16 days of action for no violence against women and children. I'm here with Jessica as a follow-up interview and with her husband Jock. Welcome both, please.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here.
Jessica, let's maybe go first to a happier place. You wrote a little bit of an introduction to yourself. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what made you what you are today? Some of it's happy, some of it's not so happy. Family life has never been great.
Yeah. So I was born in Durban, and I spent most of my childhood there. I went to school in Durban. We moved around a few places until my parents bought a house in Isipingo, which is a little bit south of Durban. But we always stayed along the coast, close to the beach. We loved the beach. All of us loved the beach. And my father was a big fisherman, an avid fisherman. So that's where I lived when I was in high school and through my university days until I left Durban and moved up to Johannesburg. So, that is where I grew up. What else would you like to know?
Brothers, sisters?
I am the eldest of 3 children. I have one brother and one sister. They both live in Johannesburg now. And my mum lives here with us, and my father, as you know, is a different story.
Absolutely different story. And that's basically what the story is about today. I would like to pick up sort of where we ended last time. Let's talk about your dad actually being released on parole. It shouldn't have happened, and you've been fighting it since. So tell us where it happened, how did you become aware of it, and how you feel about it, and what's happened since then. It's not an easy story again, because you fought very hard to get him into jail, and now he's released.
So the last time we spoke, he had just been released, and there was a newspaper article that had been published in the Sunday Times. So we had found out that he was living in Durban, and the journalists were able to track him down at the place that he was staying, at, and they informed us that he was all fine when they went to his house. He was staying with friends there. I think it was Queensborough. Yeah, he was staying there, and he was all fine when they went to his house and greeted them, welcomed them into his home. As soon as they told him why they were there and the purpose of the visit, then everything changed. He started coughing, started limping.
I'm sorry that I'm laughing about it, because this is an old story that he had throughout throughout the trial.
He was a dying man.
And then he had outside smoking with the people at the paramedics that came and fetched him. That's the story that we spoke about last time.
And we have photos of it. That's how I found out about that. Sorry, you asked me how we found out that he had been released. So my cousin had to go to the Department of Home Affairs office in Durban for some reason. She called me and she said, your father is here. And this was round about in October.
November,
early November.
2nd or 3rd of November.
Okay. And I know one of the, I don't know the term you use, but one of the things that we experience, it's a trauma response. We see him everywhere, people who look like him, maybe somebody, his complexion, or somebody who does something similar, has a similar gait or something like that, but we see him, and I say we, my cousin and I see him in people, and it's not something that we do consciously, but it is just an example of trauma response, and it is frightening, but it is something that we live with. So I thought that that is what she was experiencing. And so she had been going through that. We both had been going through that, and we talked about that recently before that call. So I was a little bit firm with her, and I said, I know that we see him in people, we see him everywhere we go, but we're safe now. And this was different though, because she was in quite a hectic state of panic. And she said, no, he's here. I said, no, it's impossible. He's in prison. He got 10 years, and the magistrate said it will be at least 5 years before he is able to be considered for parole, and we will be told about it. So I went through all of that with her, and I said, told her the reality of things to help get her out of that. She said, no, he is here. I can see him here. He's well dressed, and it looks like he's applying for a SASA grant. So then I said, okay, you need to calm down. And the whole time I was thinking it cannot be true. She's seen things. So she said, okay, I'll take the photo and I'll send it to you. We ended the call, and she sent a photo and a little video clip. And when I saw that, I went cold. He recognized her, and so he put his head down and he covered his face with his hand. But the way he was moving about, I recognized him immediately. And I froze because, the impossible had happened. And he was in a public place. So I immediately sent a message to the investigating officer, who was also listed as the parole officer, and also to the prosecutor of our case. And I called Jacques and I told him, but I remember Jacques was in his office, so I went to his window and I told him, I was standing outside here because I didn't want anybody to see how I was. Do you remember?
Very clearly.
And then I called Simone back, and she had found out a little bit more, and subsequent to our phone call, she almost fainted because of the state that she was in. So one of the staff at the Home Affairs office saw her and went to assist her. And she told them what was going on. And so this person said, okay, I'll take you to the back. You need to calm down now. They gave her something to drink. And she said, okay, I will walk in the room, like the assistants usually do, and I will see if this is the same person you're referring to. So, sometimes when queues are long, they would walk around and try and break the queues up into smaller queues by asking people what they were there for. So this lady went to him and asked his name, and he gave his name. And he said that he was applying for a SASA grant. So that was the confirmation that Simone got. And I think he left then. The other staff later spoke to her, and they said that he had been going there the whole week by himself, and he just needed a few more documents to be able to complete that application. But he had been there, I think it was a Thursday or something, later in the week.
Thursday.
He was going there every day applying for a SASA grant. The investigating officer was in court, so as soon as he saw my message, he responded and he said, it's not true, I've not heard anything. The prosecutor called us and she said that for the NPA, the file was closed, but she said he's not supposed to have been released now because it's not even 2 years that he served. So she told us what we needed to do. She said, you either come here yourselves or you need to get a lawyer and give him a brief to get the court transcripts, get all the information, contact correctional services, and find out what was going on. The police officer called us when he was out of court. He said the same thing. And he said he was going to go back to the office and look at their documents. And so we hired a lawyer, and we found out, was it the next day or a few days later? Oh, Simone, called the prison, called Westville Prison.
Your cousin?
Yes. She called Westville Prison.
She was also the
I do.
complainant.
Yeah, she was the second complainant, yes, I do remember.
So when we spoke to her, we said, we will call I said, I'll call the investigating officer and the prosecutor because I had those details. And she said she would call the prison and find out what was happening. And the prison officer who she spoke to was quite rude with her on the phone and told her that, so she gave the list. We knew what his sentences were and what the charges were. And we also knew I think we gave his ID number, we gave his details.
Yeah.
And this guy checked on the records and said he was not in prison for rape. That's not what he was charged for. And he was here it was about 2 years. He served his time and he's gone.
Just like that?
Yeah.
I know that in one of the articles that I read, Simone had a huge reaction, as she said. She said
Yes.
it changed everything because she felt safe and suddenly she didn't feel safe.
Yes.
And I assume the same for you, Jessica. What was happening emotionally with you?
My word. I think it was a bit of a delayed reaction for me. And also I felt I handled it better because he was in Durban. I knew he was not anywhere near me. Simone was terrified to leave her house after that, just the thought of seeing him somewhere else. So my immediate response was to help her. And as bad as it was for me, as shaken as I was, I think I was in a better space even when I spoke to you, because I knew he was not physically
close.
Yeah. After we did our interview, I found out then that he's here in Johannesburg.
So, George, your reaction, I'm going to speak about your sister just now. What was your reaction when you heard the first time?
I was dumbfounded because the court order in terms of the sentencing was so specific.
I actually looked at it, I read it again this morning, and it's very specific.
It's very specific. The magistrate also, when she delivered the sentencing, emphasized that portion of the sentencing. Now, as I told you, I have a legal background and I'm very familiar with those provisions. So I knew that he was sentenced for 10 years. In terms of the section that he was sentenced in terms of, he would only have qualified for parole after 5 years. I knew also that in terms of medical conditions and so forth, that there's certain regulations that correctional services needed to follow, and whether it was in terms of normal parole or medical parole, the court order was very specific in that both Jess and Simone needed to be informed and needed to be contacted. I mean, subsequently, as Jess said, we hired a lawyer, and he did obtain the actual court transcript of the entire proceedings, including the judgment, including the sentencing order. It's very clear, it is boldly stated that the complainants must be informed if parole is contemplated. So I was completely dumbfounded, and yeah, the only explanation is that there is some underhanded dealings that took place in order for him to be released, because it was clearly in contravention of the court order and several of the correctional services regulations. I was completely dumbfounded that this had happened.
Even if he is that ill to get medical parole, we know that he's had shenanigans with this throughout the trial, the initial trial. I also looked at Westfield can treat all of his illnesses. They're quite capable of treating his illnesses.
That was also emphasized. I mean, I recall the sentencing proceedings very clearly, and when we obtained the sentencing record, I noted again how that was so specifically emphasized in the sentencing order that the medical conditions was clearly recorded. That record was in front of the court, and it was very specifically stated that Westfield Prison is well capable of taking care of his condition. So, and as I said, regardless of what the situation was, if there was any parole that was contemplated, whether time or whether medical parole, they needed to be contacted.
Yes, and Simone needed to be contacted.
And yes.
And they still haven't.
Yeah.
They've still not contacted us.
We even brought a PIA request, so that is
for freedom of information.
Freedom of information. That the correctional services, through their lawyers, gave such a runaround, directed them to Gauteng because firstly they were told that he had been released into the care of his younger daughter and he is in Johannesburg. And then was directed back to Durban because they said that the Durban Westfield Correctional Services had obviously released him. And essentially they refused they did not comply with the PIA request. So that's also something that we take into the information regulator, yeah.
So let's talk about your sister. What's happening there? It's like she's totally under, her name is Johanna. And
yeah, in Afrikaans you'd say Johanna.
So Johanna, sorry. I'm Afrikaans, so Johanna, why is she supporting your dad in such a big time? Because you came up to Joburg with her. What psychologically do you think is going on there?
I have no idea. It baffles me.
Because you obviously lost contact with her.
Yes, she's cut ties with all of us when the trial started, when she found out that, and I did say that she testified on his behalf and tried to discredit me and my mum and my sister, and
your cousin
Simone as well. When we found out that he was released, my children tried to contact her daughter, and she said that she wanted nothing to do with this. We have no idea what to think about it. I can't figure it out. I can't understand. It makes no sense because Joanna has 2 daughters. And her second daughter was very close to me. I miss them. I miss them a lot, and I feel for them. I recently saw some pictures of their Father's Day celebrations, and it was scary. It was scary to see him. He does not look like somebody who is dying. We were told that he was released because he's terminally ill, and the illness that we were told the condition he has, is memory loss.
Memory loss.
Yes.
So they don't even say dementia or anything.
So it's nothing that he was suffering with when he was imprisoned. They just said memory loss, and they said if we don't like it, go to the media. Go to the media. Nobody has been able to give us any information regarding what is wrong, but he looks well and healthy. He's been seen around here in Johannesburg, so I think I've got better tools and support around me to handle it. But I hate going out anyway. I'm very grateful for online platforms.
But you don't want to live your life. You don't need to live your life like that because of somebody else's wrongs.
Yeah. It's when I go out.
Do you feel unsafe because of him? Do you feel unsafe?
Yeah, I'm always looking around. I'm always looking over my shoulder. I think being involved with CPF and doing work with SAPS helps to give me a sense of comfort and a feeling of safety. I'm an extrovert, but that is not how I am anymore. I love being, I'm at peace here, I'm at home. I love being here, I'm safe here. It's a difficult thing to explain because even to me saying it doesn't make sense. I know he can't hurt me, but I also do not trust him or my sister. I don't know how things would be when I see them. My brother and I talk often, and it is the same. We drown ourselves in work.
You know, I actually looked at, so one of the initial, it was very detailed, the first judgment that came out. And one of the things that they did mention there is that, you know, it can't be close to schools and stuff like that. So now he's got access. How old he has, is your sister's kids at least a bit older?
No, the one, her son is 7 or 9 years old. Seven.
I think he's going to turn 7.
Yeah, and the daughter is 12 years old. They live close to 2 schools. The one school is maybe about 100 meters away, and the other school is about 300 or 400 meters away from their house.
They literally live right across.
And you know that, so he's not on the sex offender list?
Yes.
He is on the sex offender list.
We did call the... Actually, it wasn't us. It was somebody who has children in the school, a lady who informed us that she had seen him there. And she knows of my story. So she called the school, the principal of the Montessori school there, and notified them that this man is a registered sex offender. He's out and he's living there. So they have been notified. I don't know about the other school, if they've been...
No, we don't know. But
because they always reoffend, am I correct? The chances of him reoffending is pretty good.
Yes, and that is what hit home when I saw those pictures of him on Father's Day. You know, if he's ill, not himself, then that would be a different story. But this man looks well and healthy, and his normal self, is a pedophile.
That's it. That's it.
I fear for my niece and nephew. The older one is 20 years old. She's the same age as my son. She can make her own decisions to an extent, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But the younger 2 children, they love their mom, they love their dad. They will do everything, to make them happy. I know that Sarah, the 12-year-old girl, she never liked him when she was little. There was just something about him. And neither did Leah, the 20-year-old. But now you see them standing with him, holding him. I don't believe that is true.
Oh, it's scary. Was it the first, I saw a letter that you wrote in February, 24th or something of February. What was that about? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So I compiled that. As I said, I have a legal background, so I really looked at carefully at the sentencing order, looked at the Correctional Services Act, the act, the sections in terms of the Criminal Procedure Act that he was sentenced in terms of, and I put together a very comprehensive letter to the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, as it was then, to indicate that, as I said, the short and the long of it is that the sentencing order had been contravened. The Correctional Services regulations have been contravened. There's very specific conditions upon which someone can be released on medical parole. And the fact is, as I said,
How do you think it happened? It's just robbery, whatever.
That's the only thing that I can imagine. I actually came across some very concerning things as I was preparing that in terms of officials, the history of some very senior officials that are part of the provincial administration, correctional services, the head of the Westwood prison. I mean, anything is possible. Yeah. Anything is possible, so that is the only reasonable explanation, because that correspondence was simply ignored. No response was ever received on it. The prior request was simply ignored. So there's no regard for that. It just simply gets ignored.
Can I ask also what we found out, about how this kind of stuff happens?
I don't know. It's all speculation. We don't know exactly what happened.
What happened, and that's
so we were told that records. I told you what the prison official told Simone when she called. That he had there that he was
no rape.
Yeah, and that his sentence was 2 years only. And we were told that once a prisoner starts his sentence, that is set in their systems, in their computer systems. It looked like not all of it, not all, is it 5?
There was several, five, was it 5 counts?
Yes, but not all of it had been loaded onto the system. And for that to have been done, it would have had to have been done when he started his prison sentence. So when he went there, that means 2 years ago, so December 2021, when he went there, that's when the corruption, the underhanded dealings,
something happened.
Something happened because when a prisoner, when someone is sentenced, they hand it over from the court
to the correctional
services. Mm-hmm. Correctional services now needs to, because the investigating officer did confirm to us, according to their records, their handover was done correctly. They've got the sentence the same as what we've seen in the sentencing order. All of that is correct. As he was then transferred to correctional services in order to start serving his sentence, clearly something was not done correctly. As Jess said, Simone made that call to Westfield Prison and was told this is not the sentence that we've got on record. She told them that. She was told that.
There are so many times journalists, they also got that information when they called correctional services to verify what had happened, and that's what they got. And they said, but it does not match the court documents, neither does it match the charge sheet from SAPS, which was all signed. So what happens is the prisoner gets taken out of court. The documents are signed by the prison officials, by everybody, and then the NPA's case file is closed. SAPS has a charge sheet. They take fingerprints, their signatures there. That is all done, and then they take the documents back to the station, and their stuff is done. Then correctional services has to do their part. And that's when something went wrong.
So we were approached by a journalist from Times Live and also from Rapport. And obviously they do their checks and homework before they publish an article. So exactly as Jess says, they made their calls to correctional services. An official who was designated to provide information confirmed all of this in terms of their records. Confirmed that he had been released into the care of his younger daughter. That they know that he is in Johannesburg. So all of that was confirmed through the prison officials.
And the fact that obviously in the part of the court order that were lost, is that I had to actually contact the victims, the two victims, the complainants, before he got released.
Yeah.
Because that was part of the court order, if I remember
A copy
right.
of the court order. It's not in any doubt. But that's why I, in the correspondence to the minister, clearly indicated that the prison officials has basically just ignored the court order, contravened the court order. There's no doubt about that.
I read the old, the previous, the from the magistrate, and one of the things is, you just said, why can't you just forget about it? And just, you can get on with it.
Just put it behind you.
Put it behind you because, have mercy on me. I think that was one of the words that he had.
Yeah.
Have mercy. How do you feel about that, Jessica?
My father is not a stupid man. He's clever, he's cunning. He knew very well, he chose his words very carefully. There was no remorse. He apologized.
That's what I wanted to ask.
He apologized for what I was going through. He never, in that apology, admitted to what he had done.
He's got no remorse.
Yeah, there was no remorse at all. The magistrate also picked that. I thought I was being so sensitive, and because all that was preached to me and still does get preached to me is forgiveness. But I saw that there was no remorse. So I feel
violated again.
I don't know. The way I see it is, the way I experience that is, my father, he didn't love me then. He still doesn't love me. It's hard to, it's really hard to have that sink in. Because I don't hate him. I think if I did hate him, if I could hate him, it would be a lot easier to handle. Why, after all of this, he knows me. He knows me as well. And he knows that I'm not lying. Why can he not? Why can he not be sorry? I guess a part of me has also sort of wished that, he's out now. Try and make contact, Make contact to say I'm sorry. To say, to ask for forgiveness. I don't know how to say what I feel. But it's not a good feeling. It's a deep hate, and I know that. It's a textbook kind of case. But that is quite a bitter pill to swallow, to know that somebody who's your father, my brother and I talk about this, we've got his genes, we've got his blood in our veins. We're physically a part of him. It makes no sense. It's a horrible feeling to have. I'm sorry.
Yeah. This has been coming with you since you were a young child, and it's difficult. I just have no words. You're not going to stop fighting, am I correct?
I'm not going to stop fighting. People have told me, people still keep telling me, just leave it. Let God deal with him. Lynette, I cannot tell you how terrible it is to hear that. Leave it to God. The assumption, I believe in God. My faith carries me so much more than I can even understand. The fact that people assume that what I am doing is not of God is against God, that doesn't make sense. Because I know that I'm not doing anything wrong.
You're speaking up for yourself, but you're also speaking up for other victims.
Yes, because standing up against what is wrong, doesn't any good religion talk about that? Teach that? Stand up for what is right. Stand up against what is wrong.
Speak up.
Yeah, and that's what I'm doing. But it's because it's too hard for people.
It is hard because I can see the toll that it has, and not a lot of people will do what you do because it is so hard. You're a warrior woman. You speak up for yourself and for other women.
Yeah.
I wish you strength for this, and can you give us another message for our 16 days of action this year?
Do not give up. No matter how hard it is, do not give up. Get what you need to help you, to hold you. I cannot tell you how many times I felt like giving up in the worst possible way. And when I say that, I have not wanted to be alive. And there are days when that still happens now. But what I'm learning is how to use the tools that I have. And the tools, there's no magic, some magic pills, but my family, my friends who have become like family. I need to tell people that that's how I'm feeling so that they can help me. It doesn't always, take the feeling away, not completely, but it helps me to not give up. So stand up and don't give up. And when you stand up, you don't know where the help comes from. You cannot see it before you do it. Only when you look back, you can see that you're not alone. So please do not give up. And I will help whoever needs it in whatever way I can. And there are more people like me who are better than me, people who are connected in different ways and connected to resources and tools that can help. And we are there for one another.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Can I give you a hug?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jock.